When we picture the Colosseum, we usually imagine something like this: two gladiators locked in a frantic, bloody duel, surrounded by a screaming mob. It's easy to look at these ruins today and see a monument to blind, chaotic slaughter. Every stone of this structure functioned as part of a highly organized mechanism, engineered to maintain absolute social order. To really understand how this structure operated, we have to look past the bloodshed. What we're actually looking at is an instrument of imperial propaganda, designed specifically to control a volatile citizenry. The story of that control starts with a political crisis. After the Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD, the Emperor Nero seized the devastated land right in the center of the city. He used it to build his private palace, the extravagant Domus Aurea, complete with a massive artificial lake. When the new emperor, Vespasian, took power, he needed a way to distance himself from Nero's tyranny. So he made a calculated countermove. He ordered Nero's private lake drained, returning the land to the Roman people by building a massive public amphitheater right on top of it. This cross-section diagram shows the immense engineering challenge they faced. The builders had to pump out the waterlogged sediment of the swamp and lay down massive, heavy concrete foundation blocks deep into the muddy lake bed to support the weight of the stone above. And the funding for this populous gift came from an incredibly violent source. The construction was paid for almost entirely by the spoils taken from the First Jewish-Roman War, particularly the wealth and enslaved people captured during the Siege of Jerusalem. By placing this massive public venue exactly where Nero's private lake used to be, and funding it with military victories, the Colosseum served as a physical piece of propaganda. It was a constant looming reminder that the new Flavian Dynasty was providing for the Roman people. To see how this propaganda machine actually worked, we need to take a vertical tour. We'll start at the very bottom, in a subterranean network called the Hypogeum, literally meaning underground, which was added later by Emperor Domitian. The reality down here was brutal. It was a dark, sweltering maze of narrow corridors, which was powered entirely by the forced labor of slaves and prisoners of war working in incredibly harsh conditions. Looking at this 3D cross-section of the basement, you can see the complex engineering hidden beneath the floor. The Romans installed an elaborate system of pulleys, heavy hydraulics, and exactly 80 vertical shafts reaching up to the ceiling. Those shafts housed mechanical elevators. Teams of laborers would haul on ropes to hoist caged exotic animals and massive set pieces up from the dark, allowing them to seamlessly burst through hidden trapdoors on the arena floor. By burying the immense human effort required to run the games deep underground, the emperor kept the machinery invisible. To the audience sitting above, lions and forests simply materialized out of thin air, projecting an illusion of effortless, godlike power. Directly above that hidden basement was the fighting floor itself. It consisted of a wooden deck covered in sand, arena in Latin, which gives us our modern word, arena. This was the empire's ultimate stage. The combat that happened here was highly regulated. Gladiators weren't chaotic brawlers throwing wild swings until someone dropped. They were expensive, specialized professionals. Fighters were separated into distinct classes with different weapons and armor, paired against each other to ensure carefully balanced, heavily refereed matches. The arena also hosted massive animal hunts. Exotic creatures like elephants and tigers were captured from the furthest reaches of the Roman territory, transported across continents, and brought here specifically to be displayed and killed in front of the crowd. These highly controlled battles functioned as ritualized theater. By staging victories over heavily armed opponents and dangerous wild animals, Rome was visibly proving its absolute dominance over both foreign enemies and the untamed forces of nature. If we move our focus up from the sand and into the massive seating stands, we see how the architecture physically enforced Roman social stratification. This flow map illustrates how they managed the crowds. Spectators were given numbered pottery shards as tickets, sorting up to 50,000 citizens through specific entrance archways, known as vomitoria, and filtering them into separate, isolated wedges. At the very bottom, closest to the arena action, were broad marble podiums. This prime real estate was strictly reserved for the elite senatorial class, who even brought their own chairs. As we move upwards, physical walls literally separated the rest of society. The next tier held the non-senatorial noble class, or knights. Above them sat the ordinary plebeians, further divided by wealth. Finally, at the very top of the building, a gallery of steep wooden benches provided standing room only for women and slaves. The building acted as a literal physical mold for Roman society. It strictly segregated the classes, putting everyone in their designated place, while simultaneously unifying them in a single civic experience, all hosted by the emperor. Today, the Colosseum stands as a broken ruin, with the underground levels completely exposed to the sky. But looking at the exterior raises a defining architectural question. Why is half of the iconic outer wall missing? The answer comes down to geology. Archaeologists discovered that because the southern half of the amphitheater was built directly over Nero's drained lake, it sat on highly unstable, unconsolidated alluvial sediment, essentially mud, sand, and gravel. This visualization demonstrates what happened during a massive earthquake in 1349. That soft ground amplified the seismic waves, causing the southern half to vibrate violently and collapse, while the northern half, anchored safely on solid bedrock, survived. The physical collapse of the building mirrored the decline of its original purpose. As Roman values shifted and Christianity rose to prominence in the empire, gladiatorial games were officially banned. The great control machine was finally shut down. The empty structure was repurposed over the centuries. It was used as housing, fortified as a castle, and extensively stripped of stone as a quarry. Today, its purpose has completely inverted, serving as a backdrop for international human rights campaigns against the death penalty. The Colosseum remains a monument to weaponized architecture. It demonstrated that managing a massive population is often most effective when done through the ritual of organized spectacle.